All right. Welcome. I'd like to thank everybody for coming, and we open the Thursday, July 3rd, 2025, Gualala Municipal Advisory Council to order. Any introductions? None. 6:03. At 6:03. First item is the approval of the agenda. I would like to add an item under after 12, after the council comments, I'd like to add a 12A to that, a closed session. And the topic will be personnel. Any other additions, deletions, corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Before move, would you like to call the roll, or we need to call the roll?
Oh, sure, if you'd like to call roll. Thank you.
Chairman Evans, are you here?
I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay, let me know when you're right. Councilmember Youngling.
Aye.
Councilmember Lewis.
Aye.
Councilmember Hess.
Aye.
And Secretary Bond here. Who I note that Councilmember Finley and Councilmember Hayward are absent, excused.
All right.
All right, we're back in motion.
Okay, I'm here.
All right.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for keeping me on track. We'll go back to the agenda as amended. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Lewis.
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Hess. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carry. Item number 3. Please take well, I'm sure everybody received the June 5th regular meeting minutes. I will, if there are no changes, additions, subtractions, then I would entertain a motion to approve as submitted.
I'll move. Okay, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lewis, second by Councilmember Youngling. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried. Correspondence. All of you should have received the correspondence. Are there any questions on any of them? Well, let me back up. Did everybody receive a copy of the correspondence? I guess so.
Great.
Right. Item number 5. The Mendocino County Sheriff or Code Enforcement Report. We have Deputy McNally in person, and we have our Lieutenant Lee on the Zoom. So,
can you gentlemen hear me okay?
I think you're okay.
Okay.
Yeah, start talking. If you start talking, I'll be able to tell that too.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. How are you guys this evening?
good.
Good. So, good evening. So, we're going to do the June order that we had at the sheriff's office. There was about 191 calls for service in June from Mendocino to the river. I just like to let you guys know overall kind of what we did in that area. In Gualala, there were 37 calls for service during June. There was 1 vandalism, 1 unwanted subject reported, 1 trespass, 1 suspicious activity, 1 shots heard, 18 security checks, 1 missing person, 2 investigations, which would just be a follow-up investigation where we go and follow up on a previous case, 1 eviction, 1 domestic dispute, 1 disturbance or noise complaint, 1 civil problem, 1 citizen assist, 1 child abuse, and 2 alarm calls. There were also 3 like false 911s, a lot of pocket dials this time of year. So do you guys have any questions or anything you gentlemen would like to talk about this evening?
Anything from anybody?
Is that number of calls normal, more or less, or?
It's been trending, since I've been here on the coast between, 190 and 220 in the South Coast area per month. So thank goodness we haven't seen a big uptick. You have to understand that 18 of those calls are myself or another deputy out with self-initiated activity. So that's us out actually shaking doors or, walking neighborhoods or parked at the park, watching folks drive by really fast for you, slow them down and things like that.
All right.
So,
I do have a question.
yes, sir.
So you talked at some length at our last meeting about your additional surveillance or just general watching and speeding. How's your sense of that?
Well, when they see the car, they slow down, right? I'll park on the side of the road there and they see the car and they normally, it's your natural urge to take your foot off the gas and put your foot on the brake, and I'm trying not to make a bunch of stops and obviously I don't want to write a bunch of local speeding tickets. I mean, but if that doesn't, if my presence alone doesn't help, then we'll try and go a different direction and slow folks down. But I think this has been going fairly well. I've been on Pacific Woods quite a bit too.
Yeah.
You guys have
Okay.
noticed I've been up and down
Say that-
Pacific Woods quite a bit as well. So I think things are going well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do you notice how the poor condition of Pacific Woods Road is? Do you notice that when you're driving up and down?
Well, a lot of the roads in the area I think are that way just because of the weather alone. I've noticed the moisture and just the weather alone here and the salt is horrible on things. So, it's a bumpy road like the rest of them that we have in the county. And the state's the same way. I think you guys notice there's a continuous attempt by the county and the state to keep up with things. I don't know that it's possible at this point.
Well, it does seem like the state roads are in much better condition than the county roads.
Right.
It's
And
like
I can't speak for that,
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't dare to believe I'm an expert on asphalt or anything else, or the county maintenance roads. As far as that goes, if I see something that looks overgrown, I'll let somebody know and I'll ask them to cut it back a little bit, like on the corners or stop signs for visibility and so forth. But, a lot of that, I don't have control over anything other than that. Yes, sir.
I have noticed an uptick in people ridiculously speeding and passing recklessly going north on one from Big Gulch, where it straightens out there and before they get to the dotted line.
Mhm. Right.
Just some-
We're in that area quite a bit. I mean, that's a thoroughfare for me to go back and forth also between Point Arena and here. I would also recommend that you contact CHP and request a larger presence from them as well. I have fairly decent contact with some of the guys that work down here and I'll pass that on as well. But it doesn't hurt for them to hear from you as well.
Yeah.
Right,
That same stretch is where they do a lot of those, like they do down in the
Yes.
States.
yeah.
Donut burnout.
What do they call those guys?
Right. I mean, some of the trouble too is you'll notice, if you're going past Bower Park, if you're going like toward 10 Mile on the ridge, there's a speed limit sign that says 50. And then within about 100 yards, it says 25.
Yes.
So it kind of just slows. So folks are, they're learning.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I'll be up there as much as I can and encourage folks to slow down.
John?
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I was over at the county MDOT office on the 26th, and I had two complaints, and one was the sight distances on many of the roads going into Old Stage, and the other roads is not being maintained by Mendocino County Department of Transportation. And the second one was obviously Pacific Woods is unsafe to walk up and down. And now you look today and you see a nice green arrow with a green line around the pothole. So it has kind of irritated people. And I know Howard Dashiell was not in and probably won't be back until next week. So maybe nothing's done when he's gone. Sorry about that.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. If you guys didn't have anything else, have any questions?
I will mention for the group that it was brought to our supervisor's attention about the poor condition of 10 Mile and Old Stage and Iverson. And you may have noticed that they've done some patchwork. It's not the best, but they went and patched a lot of the holes up there because they were getting pretty bad. And it was brought to their attention because of the accident up there that killed two young children. And they didn't have a determination other than maybe speed played a factor in it. But because of the rough roads up there, people are swerving to miss some of the potholes up there, which makes it real dangerous. So big shout out to our supervisor who contacted the county, at least tried to fill some of those major potholes, but there's still more to be done. But at least it is a Band-Aid approach to trying to at least save our suspensions and created a little safer driving area up there, up on the ridge than it was previously. So shout out to them. Lieutenant Lee, do you have anything?
Good evening, everyone. No, I do not, sir. I think Deputy McNally addresses it all very well. After our last meeting, when I was present, I did speak with the Highway Patrol Sergeant and address the issues that Mr. Bauer brought up about the speeders and such on the ridge. So hopefully they're going to spend a little time up there when they can. There's not a lot of those guys to go around either, but they definitely will help us out when we need it.
Thank you for that follow-up on that.
Yes, sir.
Anything else from the group? We wish Deputy McNally was sharing with us that you guys will be spending some time down in Point Arena this weekend.
That's correct, sir. Yeah, I apologize. I couldn't be there tonight. I just got back from Compshe. We had a little situation out there we had to deal with, and it would have put me pretty late getting down there. Yes, tomorrow we're going to be busy all weekend. Actually, we have the parade in Mendocino tomorrow, and then double back on Saturday. We've got the fireworks event down in Point Arena, as well as the salmon barbecue here in Fort Bragg. And then I'll be flipping around again on Sunday, and we'll be doing the parade there in Point Arena for the town.
Well, thank you for what you guys are doing and keeping us all safe, and you guys stay safe as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
It's always good to see you guys. Hope you have a good evening and a good Fourth.
And enjoy your dinner.
Thank you.
Yes.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
You too. Thank you, Lieutenant.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye. Okay, item number 6. Public comments on non-agenda items. A maximum of 3 minutes is reserved for members of the public to address the Gualala Municipal Advisory Council on any items not listed on the agenda, and the total time for public input on a particular issue is limited to 20 minutes. Do we have any public comments? John? And please state your name.
John Bauer.
Thank you.
As you are aware, I have spoken many times about the parking issues that are coming up in this town. And we're not addressing them. And the community is not addressing them. And CalTrans is not addressing them. They think that parking is behind the hotel. They said that in a public meeting. Go behind the hotel. They're going to put signs up in the streetscape. And they're going to say parking. Where? Go up there. Because it's not CalTrans property. All the rest of it is privately held. And private parking lots for customers and their tenants. We have almost half of the tenants, if you just use the tenant per business, in the streetscape coverage. And so that's a lot. And I've seen many things go up to us and by us, and I looked at the town plan again last week, and there are some things in there that we should be paying attention to. And those are alternative routes around through town that were listed as traffic impact helpers. And those are not even being discussed. And CalTrans is still taking the 92 spaces off the street. But in that light, I know the community center is looking towards the new building. And if they do, and they have events, there isn't going to be any parking over there. If they don't come up and put together at least 100 parking places, maybe 200, if that's really necessary, I can't say whether it is or isn't. All these facilities in town are reaching out to the tail end of their first parking approvals, and there just isn't enough parking. And I think that it would behoove GMAC to maybe look at the town plan, not only parking, but other things in the town plan that don't work. And one was just brought to my attention a few minutes ago, and that is the Board of Supervisors had promised to change the zoning issues with the GPD around the helipad. And I think Henry took that up and was going to comment on it. I don't know where Henry is. So I'm missing that juncture if he had comments on that. Anyway, that's just one, you know, if we keep going like this, we're not going to make it. So if you guys can figure out maybe putting a subcommittee together to look not only at parking, but parking is number one, at the town plan, to see if we can get some of that straightened up. We've been given promises and nothing has happened. And I think we're going to have to urge the county along a little bit to make things work for us, because right now it doesn't work. Thank you.
Okay. Bill, do you have anything? No? Anybody in the audience? No?
That wants to speak? No.
Okay. Bring it back to the council. Is parking an issue that we should agendize for the next meeting to discuss exploring? Should we put together a committee to explore what are the parking possibilities in Gualala? Engaging with local property owners, the hotel, the community center, to see what other parking opportunities may be available and what restrictions there might be. Robert, you might know more on that line than I do, but is that something we should take a look at?
I had a question, our limited partnership, received a permit last year, the amendment to the project they've been working on for a long time behind the surf center properties, and that's to redo the retaining wall. So I have a question on that based upon if there's going to be any parking provided on that property, which most needs parking.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would add to that conversation.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody? Dan?
I think we run into the same thing we ran into when we were looking at charging stations. And that is, there's no public land down there for us or the county to do something with.
Mm-hmm.
The public land consists of Highway 1 and the pullouts and so forth along there. So in terms of public creating, you know, us or the county or any other government agency creating parking, I don't know where we could go. It might be worth looking at. I won't say that it's not worth looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Be aware that our options are limited.
Okay. Don?
Well, this might sort of get into the discussion of, you know, streetscape. And I guess that issue is sort of, you know, finished with streetscape, but I do have some concerns about longer vehicles being able to park somewhere, because I know people drive through town with either trailers or,
Mhm.
there's trucks sometimes that don't really fit in a normal vehicle parking space. So, I mean, I know streetscape is sort of a done deal as far as I know, but I would support use of some of the land, part of streetscape on the northern end of town, where I don't think we need a turning lane as parking for long vehicles, but if that's part of streetscape, I'm not sure anything could be done about it at this point.
John?
Thank you, Donna. I'm glad that you're wise and that you're looking and you're concerned. Because I feel kind of the same way about some of the things that you've just talked about. I believe that there's plenty of room to park out on the highway, on the side of the highway, especially in the north end of town. And I've seen trucks and trailers and cars and trailers and motorhomes and boats and all the wonderful things that the Coastal Act has said. We want to see more of this in our community. You just took it away from them. You just took all the parking for those vehicles away. Goodbye. There might be a few extra double, triple, or 4 or 6 parking places behind the hotel where people could park, but most of the time they park on the street. They occupy a space that no longer lets 2 cars pass each other, like the South Sunstrom Mall easement on one of the pay and take days, or the people who are selling knickknacks. If you start to look at those and really get concerned, I think you'll open up to the entire picture that it's squeezing all of us all the time. And as to Robert's comment on Bauer's limited partnership, I believe that permit was an existing permit, and the Coastal Commission is now discussing that with us, and that is to replace the retaining wall. And it's basically something that we have to do. And because there was contamination on the property, we kept away from it. Did not want to start something that would be open for months and months and months and impact all of the other parking that Surf has for its employees out back. And if contamination is found, projects stop. They don't go forward. And with a very narrow window that's actually open for most of the construction on the coast because of the habitat for birds hatching and whatever else. It's difficult to put projects together like that. And I hope that you can put a committee together. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment from anyone? Okay.
Just briefly, I wanted to hear from our other members first before I weigh in. We are looking at the local coastal program update on a regular basis. I know a number of us attend to that issue and are monitoring progress. That seems a context for talking about land use corrections such as the helipad land use designation, which the county is aware of. Issues related to the allocation of public space, such as the road. Changes in parking requirements, which are likely antiquated, coming from an era where land use agencies, people wanted to have parking, so land use agencies required it, instead of looking at it as an issue of landowner self-service. I don't know that we need a new or separate subcommittee. I don't know what the utility would be. I'm not prepared to volunteer my time to it, since I'm fairly well booked at this point. But we could continue to monitor the parking issue as a policy matter as part of the coastal program update. We probably should.
Okay.
So, and again, we're monitoring the LCP update. It's a standing item on our agenda. We had a conversation in our last session delving into water supply as a significant constraint on development, we could decide at some point to talk about parking and kind of dig into it a little bit more. But in advance of that, we probably, the homework assignment would be for any one of us to think about it. Someone can do the next meeting or another meeting that you would designate. Ready to talk about parking, we're ready to talk about land use designations, we're ready to talk about shifting density, we're ready to talk about whatever policy matters we think should be updated in this town plan change. So that's my recommendation.
Okay, Robert?
I'll share some additional information that I looked into after this past week's meeting with Ukiah. And that was with the community services assessment. So I wanted to see if they had any appetite for pursuing things such as landscaping. We had always thought that as part of this streetscape project, we'd get some lighting. And so I also brought up the parking issue, which seems to, I mean, I don't know where this 92 figure came from, but it's way out of whack in my opinion. But anyway, it's something that the CSD would have an appetite for once they're further along with their pursuit of a grant so that they can upgrade a lot of the, which are now outdated facilities with the sewer system. It's been that long now too. So I still have hope in that we could resolve a lot of these differences that we have through our own CSD. And that's why I brought it up and pursued a little bit this past week.
Oh, good. It appears to me, unless the council has a different thought, is that we have two good sources right now to pursue and investigate parking issues. If we find that it needs to be fine-tuned, maybe we can put together a subcommittee down the road, because we would look at parking, maybe EV charging stations included, and reaching out to some of the private property owners and not necessarily look to the public properties, but to private property owners like the hotel or the community center or Countryside Inn or some of the other large property owners, Sunstrom Mall, that maybe we can engage with and open up public parking, especially for larger vehicles. I know that anytime we have a storm, the Gualala Community Center / Countryside Inn becomes a parking haven for all of the tree companies that pull in there with their big trucks and their chippers and so yeah, we need a place during our emergencies other than the Bauer Airport where PG&E kind of open up their encampment, but we need to identify those. I think maybe if we could work with some of the private property owners, maybe we can do a joint use where while they're not having events, that it could be available for public parking and ease some of the parking issues that we have in downtown Gualala.
It's been discussed many times over the past years that a CSD, a community services district, can pursue expanding their powers, and a parking district has been talked about at county level too for years. You'd have to have the CSD agree to doing more than just sewer service and parking district, landscaping district, lighting district. There are other things. Sure, we would get taxed a little bit more, but when are things going up in costs? We're always experiencing higher costs in everything we do. So if we get some service back for it through our own local CSD, I think it would be a good avenue to go down. So
I think that's an excellent suggestion. I know that we reached out to CSD also when we were talking about possibly a park district or park component added to their operation to take over Bauer Park and have it maintained and fixed up. So they've been approached a few times to help with some of the necessary services we have in our community, and maybe we can open up a dialogue with them again. We'll leave it in, David, in your hands from your end, and Robert, if you want to have other conversations with CSD, see what their thoughts are and bring it back to the next meeting, and maybe we can kind of fine tune it and see if we can come up with some solutions that would really help our community. Anything else under, that was public comment, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Got a lot done.
Boy, you know, hello, George.
Council comment.
All those who want to be gentlemen.
Public comment.
Okay, George, do you have anything under public comment?
Time, absolutely.
Well, then, step up.
Okay, so,
Tell us your name.
George Provencher.
Okay.
Okay, and, last meeting I attended, I talked about the, resolution that was passed by the Board of Supervisors approximately 6 years ago, where they committed to rezoning Gualala Planning District, where RCMS is currently located. All those parcels have a 50% residential set aside, and it prevents RCMS from doing further expansion, which they need. So anyway, the last meeting, it's in the minutes, but I talked about what the effects are, the impacts are of the current zoning practice. I think the committee made a commitment to go back and look at the actual documentation, which should still be in the public record. It's a resolution that was passed by the board unanimously. And they had, in that resolution, they promised to rezone, not charge RCMS for the rezoning cost, or penalize Gualala for the costs involved. The Board of Supervisors would pay for the cost of the rezoning. And the rezoning is critical because we are continuing to see growth in the population in Gualala. Even though we'd like to think there's no further opportunity for growth, people are very creative about finding ways to live here. So we are seeing a growth in population, patient needs, need for additional medical programs. There's also a new trend going on in hospitals where they're starting to move more hospital procedures into outpatient clinics. RCMS in the future will need to be able to plan for those new procedures and have the equipment and the space to do those procedures. That also means that we need to hire more providers, and we need to create more exam rooms in the clinic. So this is very pivotal to future growth for both Gualala and RCMS.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are you speaking on behalf of the board or as a citizen?
As a citizen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wanted to make sure we had that for our record.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other anybody online?
Well, yeah, Corinne's online, but she's not raised her hand, so I guess she's on stage.
Okay.
Just an additional comment.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of history, I was involved in the licensing of the current heliport that we have at RCMS. And it was in that process that the discussion came up regarding the zoning. And also, while I served on GMAC previously, I spent time reading over the town plan, became very familiar with it. So I'm speaking as a citizen, but also as a former GMAC member and also as a former member of the RCMS board.
Thank you. Okay, hearing none, we'll close public comments. Go to public agency referrals. I don't see any. Any old business? Oh, I don't see any of that either. New business. Don't see any of that either. I love the way you make agendas.
All in the white space.
Okay, committee reports. Power Park Committee. Henry's not here. Let me jump in real quick and then Dan, if you could backfill what I missed.
I'll try.
We were notified by the county that they rejected the bids to redo the rehabilitation project at Bower Park. The single bid came in at $3.4 million. And the county only received $2.2 million from the state, which, if I'm not mistaken, there's what, 2 million left of it?
A little less.
A little less.
Yes.
Obviously, that means that they have to go back to the drawing board. And that's what staff is recommending, to go back to the drawing board. They indicated that part of it was that they had an insufficient level of contractor participation in the bidding process, which created the higher cost of the project. So what staff is doing is going back and identifying areas where they can maybe cut back on some of the items to reduce the cost to get it within that $2 million or less budget that is authorized by the Board of Supervisors. And it's supposed to go to the county next month, right? Or actually this
They
month.
want to release the next bid at the end of the month.
Yeah. So some of the areas that they are focusing on in the redesign includes the removing of most of the additive alternates. The dog park, if I'm not mistaken. Can you think of some of the other?
Full scale basketball court.
No, that's not an adult.
Yeah,
That's not gonna
That's
happen.
that's base scope.
yeah,
Some of the adults were, again, the dog park. There were additional seating, wayfinding signs, so it's a lot more kind of amenities, ground amenities. I think some of the park course, the exercise equipment were also in the add alternates list. I think another area of cost reduction is less asphalt pavement, so that might be less parking capacity in the initial build.
right.
So there are areas where they're tightening the screws.
They're also suggesting removing convenience outlets from picnic areas and retaining the existing parking area instead of introducing the new drive approach and an added parking area. So just fixing up what they have rather than expanding. There are probably other things that they'll reach out to the community for, but we'll see what their new bids come in at, and hopefully we can keep the project on track. But some of the other ideas that have been floated is the idea of changing it from a full court to a half court basketball court. And the other is right now it's configured to have 2 separate courts, one tennis and one pickleball court. And the idea would be if it's too cost prohibitive, condense it into one court and stripe it for both pickleball and tennis court use. So there are some areas that are important that they're going to key on. One is making sure that the park is safe. And the other is that it's minimal impact to the youth sports groups. Because that is the primary users of that park are the youth sports families that use the park for both soccer and baseball and their practices. But we will keep you posted. I plan on going to their next meeting, and I'm sure that a representative from MCRPD will probably be in attendance as well. John, you have a comment?
Yes. Again, this is kind of
Go ahead
things that I,
and go ahead and state your name.
John Bauer, thank you. This is kind of things that I usually look at and And when I drive by, I go, wow, there sure is a lot of cars out there. And they're parked out alongside Old Stage Road, and it's not really improved for parking. They kind of going into the ditch and up the other side. And so, my view is that there's a heck of a good spot that's really not used in the park. And that's that northwest corner from the existing parking lot up to the fence of the first residential parcel there. And I believe it could provide a lot more parking for it without too much exotic expenses. Again, I don't know what the county's thinking about, where they want to go, but here we are in another spot. There's not enough parking. Thank you.
Thank you. Don?
I'm just curious, was there in fact somewhat of a lack of interest on the part of contractors to bid on this? Did they not get very many bids? Or were they?
They only got
more
one,
bids?
they got one bid.
They got one bid, that's pretty pathetic.
Well, I think there were many factors. One was the turnaround time. To be able to locate enough qualified subcontractors to do the work. They weren't able to get adequate bids to submit. The availability of subcontractors to do the work was another factor.
Distance.
What's that?
Distance.
Distance was a factor. We don't have a local. Well, we do have local landscapers, but they obviously did not submit a bid for this project. Maybe because of the scope of it. It was too large.
Specialty equipment.
The equipment as well. Do you have anything? Because I know that you've had some discussions regarding the park.
Yes, Don, only one bid was received, but they did a pre-bid walk. So the county project manager met with several contractors at the park and they walked around and talked about the scope. So there was interest, but ultimately only one bid was submitted. Kevin's gone through a list of some of the factors. As part of the project manager's bid rejection diligence, though, he's going back to the contractors, talking with them about their concerns, looking at the scope, reevaluating whether the contract estimates, the designer estimates were incorrect or corrected, or off. That those estimates were validated by contractors. Bottom line is only one submitted. And what happens when only one contractor submits, it's no longer a competitive environment, and they're going to typically would embed all of their contingency and risk costs right up in front. So the hope is if others can be enticed back to the table, that the playing field will level out at an altitude that's closer to the ground we've got. That's where we're at. It's again a question of additional diligence and some twiddling of the knobs, if you will. So hopefully that'll hit the road or hit the street end of the month. And then another month for the solicitation to cook. And net delay hopefully is not much more than a couple of months. Time is money, so all of that's forcing escalation, which means we get less and less and less as time goes by. And the other challenge from a constructability standpoint is that the later we go, the more likely the construction season will be split by a winter shutdown, and that's serious cost. So county's very sensitive to time at this point. They regret where things are at. It took longer to get to the CDP than they had anticipated due to extended public outreach and input. So time at this body, for example, slowed things down. But they're going to do the best they can with what they've got.
And they're also up against the timeframe from the state regarding the money that was allocated. Has to be obligated by 2026.
expended by the
Expended by-
by the middle of the year. So the county's also in conversation with Cal Parks
Yeah.
regarding an extension of time, performance time.
So, yeah, we're on the clock. Any other questions, comments? We'll just keep our fingers crossed that we can get this project across the finish line.
There were other potential bidders who were very close to within a 10% of variability on the bid, but they didn't bid because they had just a few specific items they couldn't get prices on.
Right, that's what we understand. So hopefully by reopening it, that those people will be able to lock in their subcontractors and timeframes and get some accurate pricing and be able to resubmit. We can only hope. Okay, no other questions on that item? Item 10.2, CalTrans SR1 Gualala Downtown Enhancement Project. David, do you have a report?
I do.
Okay, Robert?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, you have the floor.
Okay. As mentioned in our last meeting, the Mendocino County Coastal Permit Administrator heard the proposed coastal development permit on June 26th in Ukiah. The staff provided a very detailed presentation to the coastal administrator and to members of the public in attendance and on the wire. There were questions and additional input from CalTrans staff, both the project manager and landscape architect. And there was extensive public comment, plus questions and answer with the members of public in attendance, which all right, I'll speak up, which enabled people in attendance there to learn more about the proposal, express their concerns or grievances or support for the project as it's proposed. So it was a very informative interaction. One of the individuals in the public asserted that Director Julia Krogh, who is the Coastal Permit Administrator, has a conflict of interest and therefore should recuse from taking action. And ultimately, the session on the 26th was continued so that Director Krogh could confer with County Council. The continued hearing will be held on July 10th. The website, the county's coastal permit administrator website now has posted all the materials for the July 10 meeting. So staff report, additional memoranda, extensive record of public comment received via correspondence. So they're teed up. I do not know how that next meeting will be conducted. There are other applicants on the agenda. The Coastal Permit Administrator, again, held extensive public comment, including question and answer, and then closed the public hearing. She may have the option to reopen, or she may choose, since public hearing has already occurred, and the continuation was for the sole purpose of conferring regarding an alleged conflict of interest. She may focus on that matter and move directly to rendering an action on the permit. That's the report in your packets. And note a couple pieces of correspondence. One, I included a copy of a memorandum by planner Liam Crowley, who focused in on two concerns, contemporary concerns: decorative landscaping as well as parking within the highway right-of-way. It's a thorough document and well presented. Also an email from our colleague Henry Mayer in correspondence with the CalTrans project manager, Katie Everett, posing a question of interpreting the design His question had to do with whether or not the removal of landscaping, decorative landscaping, was just for areas in medians that had been considered previously in conceptual stages of design, or both medians and peripheral lateral landscaping strips. And Ms. Everett's response is that all the decorative landscaping has been removed from the proposal. That doesn't mean that no landscaping will occur. There are places where disturbed ground will be left open and thus hydroseeded. Essentially, a native seed mix will be applied to those open ground areas peripheral to the pavement in order to stabilize the ground surface, manage groundwater runoff, provide some level of stormwater treatment. That's a type of landscaping that is really quite consistent with typical practice with respect to stormwater quality management. And it is a type of landscaping material that CalTrans is equipped to deal with on a normal operating basis. So essentially it's annual and perennial grasses and things like that that can be mowed down once they become too tall, become a site obstruction. Typically these seed beds reseed, and so there'll be a repeat. And then after a while, once that seed bed declines, then CalTrans, their typical practice for this, again, type of landscaping is to reintroduce the hydro seed, it's just a seed again, and that cycle just begins again. So those are the two additional pieces of correspondence that I had access to and distributed with the agenda. Any questions?
Any questions, Dan? Hang on, Don.
Yeah.
Don?
Well, real quickly, I just want to clarify something. Julia Krog, she is the coastal permit administrator,
Yes, that is one of her roles.
so she wears multiple hats.
Yes.
It's a good thing she's a talented and energetic person.
I agree, but I was just curious, how many hats she wears.
Many.
A lot. She is the coastal permit administrator under law. I presume that there's some procedure for delegation to senior staff if necessary. But we'll wait and see what happens on the 10th to find out where things land with respect to the allegation of conflict of interest.
So with this, the grasses as part of not a decorative landscaping, but just a landscaping, almost like a mow strip along the sidewalk areas, right? Who's gonna maintain those when the grasses keep growing?
The standard practice for this type of landscaping material within the CalTrans highway right of way is for CalTrans to mow it down, much like you see during.
Right, when they get their mower and roll
Roller
down.
comes out and those materials are mowed down so that they don't become, again, a site hazard. They're also reduced in order to manage the potential for ignition from hot vehicles pulling off the road, people tossing cigarettes, things like that.
So who would be responsible for replacing dead vegetation?
It would be CalTrans' responsibility if that vegetation has been installed per a stormwater permit,
Okay,
like a Clean Water Act 401 stormwater management permit. If that's the purpose, if the purpose is ground stabilization, it would likely be CalTrans still, and likely in response to people giving them a call and saying, hey, come out and throw down some more seed.
Okay.
I'm speculating, but this is, again, I'm speaking from experience with CalTrans in similar circumstances.
okay, yeah, I'm sure it's not the first time that they've had projects like that,
No.
and it won't be their last. John, you had a comment?
John Bauer, I was there with David and a few other members. Robert was there too at the meeting over on the 26th. A lot of things kind of came up, and I'm just thinking about what the heck's going on. We've got a streetscape, And the streetscape specifically excludes on-street parking. And that was not to be dealt with lightly. The Coastal Commission said, we're not going to have any on-street parking. And to me, they just shot themselves in the heart. They're taking spaces that could be utilized for visitors and people going to campgrounds with their camp trailers and with their boats to go fishing offshore. And all this is part of the Coastal Act encouraging visitor usages. And something's wrong. It just doesn't look right. The other thing is, I think I mentioned quite a few meetings back when it was brought up by CalTrans to GMAC that there would not be any vegetated strips up and down the highway because there was no one to maintain them. And I said, well, guys, this is probably not a sad event. This is probably an opportunity. What can we do with it? I think the ICO said in today's newspaper it's going to be all concrete. Thank you very much. So instead of having some vegetation in there, which is just routine grass that can be mowed by Caltrans, there won't be any of it. It's just going to be concrete. And that's what the ICO said. And I don't think I heard that at the meeting, Dave. Did you?
Would you like me to respond?
Sure.
Okay. Katie Everett presented an image, a photo simulation that showed the locations where some form of erosion control seed mix would be applied.
That was a
along
different thing,
strips.
yeah.
And if you look at the latest design, which is available in the county staff report, the big book, you'll see a number of sheets that talk about the application of erosion control seed mix in peripheral strips, some of them are only inches wide. It isn't, all of that ground area will not be paved over, at least per the design as part of the proposal. It's possible that the reporter at the ICO who did otherwise, I think, a very fair reporting of the session, she may have misunderstood the information available to her. But again, if you look into the design materials for the proposed project, you'll see throughout the project, although not very much, but the project won't be paved all the way to the edge of the right of way in places where there are, again, strips of dirt that are going to get seed mix on it.
Well, my view was, I started to look at some of those, I want to say perspective sketches that were from Caltrans, David, and I looked down the street and there's a straight line of sidewalk and it kind of goes, where does it go? Where does it go? Is it actually interfaced with our local businesses and their walkability? And I went, no, it's not. It just stops. And I think we need to encourage that. We have some other thoughts for additional walking paths on our businesses. And I believe that they would be well received by the community. Also, when I said opportunity, I meant two things. One is if it's never going to come up and they just don't have a way to bring it up and nobody can take it over, then remove it. Use that space for a row of parking down the west side. And since our community is in a fog belt, everything is relatively green in our community. So we're not like a dried out desert piece of ground that needs some greenery down the street. We have plenty of greenery. And I understand the sea ranchers and their attitudes, and I can't change those are theirs. But I believe that for the community's sake, for the visitors' sake, and for the Coastal Commission's sake, we should have some of that back. And I don't know how we're gonna get it, but I know that we have planted various spots on our property. And some of them have been relatively water-free and look pretty good. So I think we still have opportunities and we could take those. And I'd like to see us take those, but they would be on our own property. They wouldn't be part of CalTrans. And so that in itself would take some of the pressure off this whole thing, if it could happen. Anyway, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other public comments? Anybody online?
Nope.
Any other comments from council? Right, David, thank you for that report. Welcome. Okay, Robert. Okay, next item, 10-3, the Gualala Community Center Reconstruction and Master Plan Project. Let's see. Currently, there are two proposals that are being presented to the board of directors for the Gualala Community Center. One is a remodified plan from the contracted architect, Bigger. Scaling the building back from a 7,000 square foot building to a 5,000 square foot building at a modified cost projection of $4 to $4.5 million to construct the building. There's a second plan that is being proposed by the Build Local Committee that is a 7,000 square foot building. It is currently being proposed as a metal building. That recently was presented to the board. Those at the current, and the third option to look at the hotel, and Robert can share anything he would like to as well. The third option of purchasing the Gualala Hotel with a partnership of an outside investor, Coastal Seniors, and the Gualala Community Center has since been pulled off the table, is no longer a consideration for at least the Gualala Community Center board to present to the general membership. So there are two plans currently. There will be a new board of directors that will be seated on Tuesday, July 8th. And that new board of directors will be charged with moving forward with the project. I'm sure it's no surprise if you take the ICO. I've stepped down from the board of directors and left it in their capable hands to build a new community center that I hope our residents and visitors will be able to enjoy for many years to come. But that is the Gualala Community Center Reconstruction Project presentation. Are there any questions? Don?
Yeah, for the, I guess there are two standing proposals, each involve constructing a new building. I'm just curious, how much additional money is the community center going to need to complete these projects? I guess you have insurance money at this point and whatever donations the public has provided. I don't know if there's any other sources at this point, but I'm just curious, what is the plan to get to the amount of money you need to construct either one of these two proposals?
Right now, the community center has approximately $1.8 million in the bank to build a new building. The Build Local Committee has a pledge of $1 million from Coastal Seniors to support their plan. So that's $2.8 million. Where we're going to get the other 1.2 or even more, because there are no There are no numbers yet presented by the build local plan. They're not at that stage yet to submit for bids from outside contractors. I do know that they're reaching out to local subcontractors to see if they can provide donated materials and or labor to help reduce the cost. But for a 7,000 square foot building, they're projecting now anywhere between a $4 and $5 million building. So is there money out there right now? No. The hope is by some people that with a revised plan, it may regenerate contributions to the rebuilding project. There is a $2 million grant, a community project grant that was submitted to or through Congressman Huffman's office that was approved out of committee. So now it's being now we're just waiting to see if that funding is approved by both the House and the Senate. And if so, then Gualala, it was recommended that we get a $2 million donation or $2 million grant from the federal government. And there's no money right now on the horizon from the state of California. So, yeah, that's where we're at. We've got some great plans, but we're not sure how they're going to pay for it. Yes.
Okay, well, if, this $2 million federal grant that community center had hopes for, if that's not in the budget bill that just got passed, then it's not happening.
Right.
Chances are it's not there. I mean, if you don't know anything about it in terms of it being there.
Well, we wouldn't know yet, but you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So who knows if that will ever happen under the current administration, or should I call it a regime? So, I don't think we can count on it,
Right.
quite frankly. And so it sounds like there's about a $2 million, roughly more or less, shortfall. Is that correct?
That based on the current figures, I would say that's probably accurate.
Okay. That's not gonna be easy. It's kind of an obvious.
You don't have
but
$1 million check.
I wish I did, but
Yeah. Yeah. Dan?
On a personal note, I would like to thank Kevin for his service on the community center board.
Thank you. Thank you. Robert?
I heard that there was a contingent from the Build Local group that went over to the county last Thursday. Did you happen to go with them or not?
No.
Did you hear anything, what they were able to achieve with building and planning?
No.
No, that's probably gonna be brought up at the,
Probably at their July 8th meeting.
okay.
I would suspect. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, I don't know what. Because
Apparently they were in Ukiah on last Thursday, and then we're talking building and planning department.
right, they were on a fact-finding mission. There are two major questions that they're trying to get answers to. And one is, if they cancel the current contract with Figure, which is the approved contractor by the community center board, and go with an outside group to build local, would that new revision cause the community center lose the project exemption? And if they lose that exemption, that means one, they can't build a 7,000 square foot building, and two, it means that it has to go before the coastal commission.
And that we as a council are gonna have to review that project,
It will,
if that's what happens, yeah.
it will, I would suspect based on the scope of the project and the size, regardless, it will, planning and building will probably require them to come before GMAC just for a public meeting to get the public feedback on the final permit approval. So,
Yeah, cause there's, you know,
but that's where it's at right now.
mhm.
I don't know what the build local group, what they had on their agenda. But on behalf of the board, I submitted a letter to the directors saying that we have a group that would like to talk to them regarding the optional plan. So we shall see. Don?
One last quick question. How does this proposed 7,000 square foot of building compare with what was there before in terms of space? It's larger, it sounds like.
It's large, well, it's larger by only 600 square feet. The building that burned down was 6,600. And the new building proposal is a little over 7,000, so it's about a 600 square foot.
Okay, so it's not enormously larger.
No, and the only difference that between the old building and the new building that they're proposing, one, they will have a place for the coastal senior offices. And they will have a scaled down main hall. So it'll be somewhat the same as the main hall in the old building, minus the stage. So when we factored in the usability and square footage of the main hall, we included the stage area for possible uses. The current build local plan is only building it based on the square footage minus the stage.
Okay, so there won't be a stage.
There will not be a stage. Right. Hopefully, maybe in their plans that they will look as they were both our current architect and the build local. We're hoping what they will do is look at the option of a portable stage that can be erected for small events and then stored away. So, but that's the only difference.
It sounds like they're trying to take advantage of being able to build 10% greater than the old footprint also. With that extra 600 square feet.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, their plan is based on not losing the exemption. If we lose the exemption, then they have to go back to the original 6,600 square feet. So they lose about 600 square feet. Okay. Right. Moving on. The local coastal program and town plan. David, anything?
Yes, the next Grassroots Institute Progress webinar will be held from 3 to 5 p.m. on July 17. I think just direct you guys to the website if you don't have the link, but it's being distributed. If you need it, let me know and I'll send it to you.
Okay. I
don't have any update beyond that.
Okay. Economic development, Robert, anything?
I don't know anything.
I have one, it's a conceptual plan that's being floated around to, and I know, Robert, you're familiar with it. What is it, a gazebo?
What's that?
A gazebo?
Kiosk, I thought it was.
A kiosk, there's kiosk. To serve as the visitor information building in our area, which we desperately need. We have a lot of visitors. It would be nice if they could stop somewhere and get the information. So that is being proposed on a couple different locations, but we're hoping that they might be able to do that and provide I don't know how they're going to staff it, but it would be something that is needed for our community. Let all the visitors know the opportunities that we have here. Any questions? No? Nothing from the audience? Okay, website, social media, telecommunications, community broadband access. Done.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to know whether, Kevin, you got in touch with, I guess PBS regarding, whether they will pay for any, consulting work we need on the website. I have kind of narrowed the scope down of what I think we minimally need in order to get this thing online. And I've requested from, the consultant that I have an acquaintance with now in Sonoma County, but I haven't heard back from him yet. That was only fairly recently that I put that together for him to review. So we'll see what how that comes back, but did you have a chance?
I was gonna wait and see if I have a price that I can share with the county, saying we would like to hire a consultant, this is what it's gonna cost, so if you can get that.
Okay.
Because we know the county is dealing with their budget issues, so I wanna let them know what we have.
Okay, well, as soon as I know that, I can just email you that
Okay.
information. Right. Otherwise, I've made a few little modifications to the site to be more ADA compliant, but it's still not done.
All right. Any questions for Don?
The other thing I'd like to do, last point I want to make is, and unfortunately Henry's not here, but I really would like to get Henry up to speed so that he could manage this meeting like I do, so that there's somebody else that can do it. I mean, I have not, since I've been a member of GMAC, I have not missed a single meeting,
That's why
whereas
we-
everybody else has.
that's why we have a chain on your ankle.
Anyway, what if I decide to go on vacation for a month or so? I mean,
People
what
have come
are we
here.
gonna do? So I'd like to have there'd be an option for Henry, to do this. He's got, similar computer. We're no longer dependent on an iPhone. I know he doesn't use an iPhone, so that's cool. All the other equipment that we're using, we'll just plug into his computer, should work the same. He just has to know how things are put together, how to set up the equipment, and then manage, the Zoom meeting. But I think we need that capability so that we're not 100% dependent on me.
I agree, and I think cross-training is always good. And I think Henry would be the best because I would mess it all up.
Now, Henry, he's savvy with MacBook, so I don't think it would be a problem for him, quite frankly.
Okay. Any questions for Don?
Just
Treasurer.
comment, brief comment.
Yeah.
The website has really improved functionally. So
Yeah.
thanks for doing that.
You mean the old website?
No, the one that you have that you're hosting with the nice office plan.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Yeah, it's.
That is
hosting-
the old site.
I know it's old site, but you've done some back end work because everything was out, downloads smoothly. The functionality of it is nice, it's robust, and stable. So thank you.
Yeah, well, fortunately, it still works, but I know for a fact that website's broken.
Oh,
In other words, if I try to go in and make modifications, it won't let me.
but you're able to put stuff up. and-
Yes, fortunately, I can still post, and that's the most important thing. I can post information from meetings, and the archive section works. I kind of like the way that is formatted, actually, and that's what I want to duplicate on the new website, and that's where I need some help, because having basically it's two columns. One column is the meeting, those are posts. Every monthly meeting is a new post. So that gets listed in this list on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side is the column of archives, which can go back, years. In fact, so I kind of like that format, but I don't have the capability to duplicate that on the new website. That's where I need some help. And really, if we can get that done, that gets us 99%, I think, where we need to be in order to bring the new website online.
Cool. Well, thanks. I know it's a lot of work. Thank you.
Sure.
You appreciate it. Okay, any other questions for Don? Anything from the audience? No? Dan, anything on treasurer's report?
No, I don't know if Henry's still waiting on that check. I'm of the belief that the ICL ad check should have gotten to him by now.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too, but I haven't heard anything from anybody about it.
Well, sometimes no news is good news, so. You can only hope, right?
Yes.
Okay, council member comments, new business on for future agenda. I'm also gonna open it. Is there any other public comments? George?
George Premonche. Yes, the issue of parking has been debated over and over again here in this forum and other forums. And one of the things that I think council should look at when they come before you or to review the final permit for the community center is the parking. I've heard a lot of different contradicting stories about whether or not they were out of compliance with parking, were they exempt from parking. I've heard different stories supporting both. I've personally read the county ordinance. I don't find any exceptions in there when it talks about the algorithm for calculating how much parking you need per square foot. It's pretty simple and pretty straightforward. If the community center included somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 parking spaces, it would probably solve at least half of the problem with parking in town. I go to farmers market every weekend, and one of the things I notice is that they, when they set up for farmers market, they still leave an area out there that's about the size of a football field. And then you have everybody parking on the street who come to farmers market instead of parking somewhere around there. It probably could be better organized, but there needs to be a plan for parking. I don't think the county planning department should ignore the current parking condition that exists. It should be addressed through the permitting process with the new building. And I think it would be good if someone can make a future motion to make a recommendation to the planning department that they go back and review the parking requirements.
Okay, any other comments for the good of the board? Anybody online, Don?
No, there's nobody online. Since we're at the end of the meeting now, and we're looking forward to the next meeting on August 7th, I'm wondering whether, there's a compelling reason to hold the meeting on August 7th, since we're kind of in, summer vacation time. So I'm just wondering whether council members want to have a meeting on August 7th or feel there's a real need. I'm just curious.
Okay, open it up to the council. Do you want to go dark on August 7th?
We could book a vacation, huh?
So where are you going? You don't have to tell.
I'm not saying, but
I'll carry you.
that would open up an opportunity for me.
Need some break. I don't know, whatever. There's any CDPs online? I don't know. Played by ear.
No CDPs, in terms of tracking things, we would have the results of a couple projects that we're tracking. Those results are well beyond our authority, so it's gonna be news no matter what. For example, the Streetscape CDP will be acted on. It's not a matter of whether it comes back to us or not, so that's news.
Bye, George, thank you.
The local coastal program update, again, another GRI webinar, that's, it's news, it's out of our hands. I don't expect that we will receive a draft document, either a technical report or draft policy materials in this time frame. So there won't be anything for us to work on particularly.
Yeah.
I think since we agreed to do the CDP assignments by an automatic, spread out the work program that didn't require it to be done at a meeting, then our obligation to be worried about that is reduced.
Mhm. We check the calendar. So that meeting would be August 7th. So what's the council's pleasure? Does someone want to make a motion that we go dark on August 7th?
Yeah, I'll move that we not meet on August 7th and consider that a vacation month or GMAC.
A vacation month.
First vacationist.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Hess to go dark on August 7th. We have a second.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We will go ahead and, like we did the last time we went dark, we will put an ad in the ICO, letting them know, or letting them post it. We could post it on our website. And Dave, if you can send a notice out to the applicable agencies, both the county sheriffs and to our supervisor and everybody.
I'll send it in the normal list.
Let them know that we will be going dark on August 7th.
Would you like me to send that notice also specifically to the ICO?
Sure.
Or do you want
That's
to
fine.
take out an ad or just make sure that they?
Let's take out an ad. I think last time it cost us $40 or $30 or whatever. 42. See, go to the man with the money. Yeah, I think it's money well spent to let the public know that we're going dark. Okay. Yes.
Of course, if there is, for some odd reason, between now and then, a pressing need for a meeting,
We can call special.
you can always call a special meeting, correct?
Yeah. Exactly. Yes.
Move to amend the agenda to reflect that the next meeting will be September 4th.
Oh, okay. We will do that. Okay, hearing no other business before us, we will adjourn to a closed session meeting. So thank you for all of you that came and joined us on this July 3rd, and please have a safe July 4th weekend. And we will see you again September 4th.
Will you come back out after closed session and?
Well, yeah, once if there is reportable action, then we will come out of closed session and report that, and then that will be part of our regular minutes.
You expect that to be very long?
Hopefully not.
I'll wait.
Okay. So, thank you, everybody. We're gonna adjourn to closed session, so we're gonna have to ask everybody to please, at a minimum, step outside. And if we have anything reportable, we will reopen our meeting and report any action. Okay. Are we turned off?